What this is saying is that it will build something that you can open as a Jupyter notebook on Colab Google.
Illuminate has been added to Notebook LM.
Oh, this is a great way for businesses who don't have a show.
Google's out there with all the information in the world. If you want to learn anything, learning.google.com.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is September 12th, 2024. You're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live, and today we're going to be doing a bit of an overview, deep dive, whatever you want to call it, of Google Labs. And Google Labs is really, really cool. We're going to get into all the different cool AI features I have in there. So if you've never heard of this before, don't worry. We're gonna deep dive into some of the parts of it that are cooler than others. And to get into all of that, we have Jyunmi, Beth, Karl, Andy, and I am Brian. So let me start by sharing my screen, because I think just to show people kind of what it looks like, and we'll talk about how you get access to it, and if other people want to play around with it, that kind of stuff. So first and foremost, let's start with just the basic page here. Okay, this is the Google Labs page. So that is literally labs.google.com. You can't see it in this particular screenshot, but that's what it is. So fairly easy to get to. Now, if you have just a basic Gmail, email account, not through your business, although that's probably fine. Although I just know some people don't necessarily get Google Workshop and Google AI if it's through a business account. But if you just have a basic Gmail, you've already got everything you need in order to get into Google Labs. I mean, you can certainly go to the website. What you're going to find is that these individual tools, and we're going to dive into these a little bit. There's more on this row. There's more on this row. Well, backwards. There we go. More there. And then there's actually some games below it that we'll talk about a little bit as well. But what you can actually see, we'll just use Magic Compose as an example. Some of these are going to say join waitlist. So if it's something that you think, oh, that sounds really interesting, it's something I might want to play around with, you hit join waitlist. More times than not, you're just brought to a Google form that asks you a few questions. Now, some of them are more detailed, and they'll ask you like more how you're going to use it. I guess they're using that type of, keyword, that metadata from your answers to decide who they roll it out to and who they don't roll it out to. For instance, just the other day, I got, not the other day, it was that Google Illuminate. It was another one that I got access to that I previously sort of forgotten about. And I was like, oh, let's see what this is. And, go click on it and it said, oh, you have access to it. So it's pretty cool. Some of the stuff is free right off the bat, or not free. Everything is free. Some of it is available to you right off the bat. Some of it is waitlisted stuff. So before I go one down one route or another, I want to bring other people's opinions in here. There's probably like 16, something like that, maybe closer to 20 if you start bringing in the AI tools. So there's really a lot that we would have to cover if we just start saying, okay, number one, number two, number three. I feel like the one that has gotten a lot of buzz in the last couple of days, which is just coincidence because we had come up with this show concept well over a week ago. And I was like, hey, we should really talk about Google Labs, was a tool called Illuminate. And I'm actually just finding this out like literally before we went live, that now Illuminate has been added to Notebook LM. So if all of that is like Illuminate, Notebook LM, none of that makes any sense to you. Jyunmi, can I throw it over to you on that one? And can you just give it a quick description of both? And then let's go look at both of them on the screen.
Sure. So essentially, Illuminate is a Google Labs tool that allowed you to analyze and convert a archive article or a research paper into a podcast. Essentially, it would create two AI voices that would discuss the elements of the papers that you have submitted to, your Illuminate. So if you wanted to talk about All You Need Is Attention, right? That really famous AI paper that launched everything in the last couple of years anyways, is you can pop that into Illuminate, then it would create a podcast with two people discussing the various aspects of the research paper. So this is a great way to absorb these really dense, really technical papers that all of these researchers are coming out with, all of the frontier model companies are coming out with. They always release these types of research papers. And since they're kind of hard, unless you're in that space, they're kind of hard to absorb. So a podcast is usually a real easy way of absorbing at least the key takeaways.
So
that's the main power of Illuminate.
Yeah, real quick before I'll pull it up on the screen. So right now, Illuminate can only work with archive papers. Okay, so archive is arxiv.org, but pronounced archive. It's a very popular website. If you follow Ethan Mollick, like pretty much every paper that he references on LinkedIn, 90% of them, I would say, are here on this site. So what you need to do, let's just back up a little bit here. Like, because this is where you would normally be taken. So one of the things you can do is over here, like where it says HTML experimental on the side, if you click on that, that actually gives you, it's cut off on my screen because I'm sharing the tab, but that gives you the URL that you essentially need. So then if we jump back over to this tab, that's in fact the one that's up here in the upper left where it says my grade is wrong. So that was a paper that actually came out and was published yesterday. And it's talking about AI and using AI as an evaluation tool for students on basically coming back and saying, hey, this is why I think my grade should be different. I'm basically challenging the grade, that kind of thing, right? So they go through all of it. And let's just play a little clip so you can hear what it sounds like with the man and woman voice that sort of go back and forth. And I think it's the same two AI voices every single time.
Diving into the world of AI-powered education. This paper, My Grade is Wrong. A contestable AI framework for interactive feedback and evaluating student essays proposes a new framework called Kaikelf, which aims to improve the quality and interactivity of AI-generated feedback for student essays. What are the main challenges that Kaikelf addresses?
The paper highlights two key challenges with current AI approaches to.
Okay, so I just want to play a little bit there so you can hear both voices to it. And that's basically the format that I've seen, at least, is that the male voice will sort of start it off and then ask the female voice about it. He'll ask questions, she'll respond to the questions. He'll ask questions, she'll respond. And there's a little back and forth to there, but that's generally the feel that I've gotten. I haven't done like 100 papers through here. And then what you can do is once you've done that, you can save it to your library. You can also use more than one link. So if you want a compare and contrast, or you wanted to look at two different articles at once, and it takes about 30 seconds for it to process. So, maybe let's just pause there. Really, I mean, Karl, you've talked about this too. I know I've talked about this on the show where we talked about being in the car and having custom-made podcasts. I think this is the beginning of that, right? This is the idea that you can quickly create entertaining audio content, let's call it a podcast, that you could listen to in a car, on a run, while traveling, just at your desk while walking. But it might be customized specifically to content that you've curated. It could be this show, right? We could create something off the transcripts of the show where we create a, daily or weekly podcast or whatever that's giving you the summaries, and it's not our voices, but it's just a summary. Maybe it's a 5-minute recap of what we talked about this week. That would be something that we would technically be able to do with this. So I think it's a really cool idea. Let's pause there because everybody else, Beth, Karl, Andy, what are your guys' takes on this and what it can do? And then whoever wants to take it over to Notebook from there.
There's one thing that I was thinking about yesterday where my first thought was, this is a great way for businesses who don't have a show or a regular show. And usually on that show, whenever they release some sort of original research, they talk about it, they do promotions on it. But if your company doesn't have that capability, or your research or whatever your organization doesn't have that platform, this could be a way to do it. But then it got me thinking too. I was like, the amount of approvals that I remember, when I did like even UCG content with the report to author, if you have a big enough organization, there's a lot of people who are going to want to review it before it goes out. So I'm curious to know, and I don't know if this feature was designed for this, but if you plan to release it just in terms of like approvals and whatnot, can you trust everything that this podcast episode says about your report? Is it accurately reflected? and does it accurately reflect it for your business? That's sort of like my first thought. And it was just more of like, oh, it's going to be a pain in the neck for companies who have militaristic brand teams. That's how I see it. It's who criticize every single color and all that kind of stuff. So that's my initial thought. For some companies, they're like, you know what, it's good enough. Let's put it out because we don't have content. Good on you. But I know there's some companies that are like, this just doesn't fit whatever they talk about.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from. I'm not sure that that's the main use case for this. I do think the point of whether you got the full amount from just listening to the summary is super relevant. I can see this more being used for, wow, I thought that looks like an interesting report. Let me see what the AI summary is, and then maybe I'm going to go and read the full report. Because I think everybody who's read full reports and compared them to summaries, you do miss stuff, right? I mean, it's a full report and it's a summary, right? Like, so essentially you're getting like a conversational abstract plus in some ways, and it's serving that same function. The abstract is to tell you, is this report going to contain what I'm interested in or what I need to know? And then you read the rest of the report. I think this is kind of that same thing.
By the way, this is a maybe indicative of a larger AI problem that I hear a lot about. In fact, a gentleman named Kevin Dorsey, he goes by KD, but he's a whiz when it comes to sales strategy. I mean, KD knows what he's talking about. And one of the things he mentioned actually on a live LinkedIn show yesterday that him and my boss Jake Dunlap were doing was just this idea of, hey, are we quickly moving to a world of summaries where no emails, no sales emails, everything is a summary, everything is a quick AI snapshot of it. And his point to it is super valid is, okay, but if I'm in the world of sales, okay, if I'm in sales and I need my sales reps, because he's a CRO, so he's got a team of reps. If I need them to deeply understand the industry and personas of the people they're selling to, you can't do that through summaries and quick quips. You have to, you need to embed it. You need to deeply understand it because that's what it takes a lot of times. So he had his valid point, and this sort of brings it up. And I think you kind of said it, Beth, like undoubtedly with a summary, you're going to miss something because by definition, it is not the full thing. And so whether it's AI or somebody else doing the summary, taking notes in a, old school in a conference room and saying, well, I'll just jot down the notes and pass those summary notes out as an, executive assistant, there's still going to be nuance missed. There might be some other things missed that might end up being crucial. So sort of a larger take and maybe a different show, but something worth mentioning at least.
Absolutely. And we're finding this more and more as things get translated, as you take, you want to copy sort of the tone of a piece of writing, but you want it to be about a different subject. What AI is designed to do is the most probable response, which means that it's the same, right? You've lost the nuance, you've lost the interesting, specific examples or those sorts of things. You're getting the thing that would work most probably for everyone, and you totally need to understand when that's an advantage for you and when it's a disadvantage. Because if you're moving forward, misunderstanding that it's a disadvantage right now, that's gonna reflect on you, right? One of the things that we notice when people are writing social media posts with AI is that if you're just writing social media posts but not reading AI posts written by everybody else, you think, cool, this was pretty good, right? Like, I like that. If you read 100 posts, you're like, oh no, 50 of these are what AI just gave me. It's not that it's copying, it's that you're all getting the most probable response.
Yeah,
right?
It's a good way.
What do you think, though? Just in terms of the amount, it's a kind of a weird circle where everybody has access to create as much content as they want, AI content. But now we have so much content that there's no way you have time to watch, read, listen to all of it. So you have to summarize it. So it's kind of a vicious circle where all this AI is being created, but then you have to summarize it because you can't consume enough of it. And really, there's only a few people or outlets that you will actually read the real thing. There's other places I'm like, I don't have time to go through that. I just give me the summary and then I'm good, right? Unless you really have that use case. So it's just fascinating the amount of content, but then you have to summarize everything to do that. So it's kind of a weird circle there.
I think it'd be a little easier for people to sift through everything, and this might be required of them, is to learn what they want their takeaways to be, right? I want to identify, like, for example, if you were looking strictly for the latest AI tool to solve marketing issues or marketing problems or those kinds of things, then you can set your filter or your curation for that. So it might just be more curation on the side of the content consumer, and going through all of that content that's out there. So summary, yes, but more, I guess, hyper focused on the exact kind of use cases that they need that information from.
Yeah. Okay. I know, like, I think there's probably a whole conversation and maybe even a whole show talking about, I don't know, Beth, there's probably a really good title in there, Jyunmi, that, the summarization of society or something like that. And I don't know, there's probably a really good thumbnail to go with that too. So we'll put a pin on that one, because sometimes that's what we just come up with new topics and we're like, hey, that's a whole 30-40 minute show. But today is more about Google Labs. So I do want to at least keep moving a little bit in that direction. Obviously, Andy, we want to get your feedback in here as well. But I'll just pull up a really quick Notebook LM. So I don't know, Andy, do you want to talk about Notebook LM? Or, I mean, I can, but I just figure whatever works here.
Well, you're ready to talk about it, but let me just make a comment before that, which is in Google Labs, there's a wide range of different experimental tools, but there are three principally that are around learning, which is something that's, kind of a focus of mine in AI. And we just talked about Illuminate, which takes a complex archive paper and gives you a dialogue back and forth between two voices. We're going to, I want to mention a couple of the limitations of that right now that may be solved by what you guys were saying before the show started, which is that now Notebook LM can include an Illuminate type audio exchange. And that allows you then to take whatever you've collected in Notebook LM and assemble that into a package of documents and then have an explainer podcast out of it. That's a limit of Illuminate right at the moment, because you can't tune Illuminate to any kind of level of comprehension. It's going to use the same vocabulary, the kind of very complex vocabulary that's in the paper itself, without much explainer around those things. Whereas one of the ways I use AI is I say, okay, now, explain this to me with analogies and in a non-technical language, right? And then, AI is very, very skillful at that. You can't really do that with Illuminate at the moment. And then the last one I'll mention before you go into a deep dive on Notebook LM is Learn About, which is really good. And I hope you guys are going to cover that one too, because Learn About is in some ways better than both of the others in really capturing a really kind of global view of what the subject is that you're interested in. Now, I'm going to just mention that I use Notion as my collection base, my knowledge base. And so I have not used Notebook LM very much. I have a couple of documents in there, but go on to Notebook LM because Notebook, and I can share a screen about Learn About later if you like, an actual Learn About presentation. But go ahead to Notebook LM because I'm really interested in seeing what the audio summary feature of the Notebook LM system is.
Well, then we can do this live because I wasn't aware that was even integrated till like right before the show, because I've always just used it through Illuminate. So I guess what I'll do is just show this screen first, and then I'll back up, and then you guys can either show me or share your own screen on that. So basically, Notebook LM is a RAG system. So it's going to go, you're going to upload resources, and then you're going to be able to ask questions against it. On the side here, you can see what amounts to basically 35 different transcripts from this show. And then, as you would expect, you're able to start typing here and ask questions against it. And you can see that there's some like sort of starter questions here, but they're not necessarily 100% about this. They're talking about slide decks. There are no slide decks in these documents. So it's not like tailored to the documents that I uploaded. But we could ask questions in here. You can see on the side we're saying 35 sources. We can ask questions about when or what did we mention in terms of AI literacy. I guess "we" is a little broad there, but I could say what was mentioned about it. But
Brian, while that's coming up, can you click on the notebook guide there on the bottom right? Because that's where the audio is located when I created one. I'm wondering if it added to this pre-existing one that you created.
Okay. Let me click on that in a second. Here's the types of results that you guys are to get. And what I love is that if you hover over the citation, there it is, right? So this is where it's pulling that in. Now, it's not necessarily highlighting it, but you can see here, it's from the show AI Literacy. Now, that was kind of a give me shot, right? Like the net was set at 5 feet on that one, and I dunked it. But that's okay. Like, I think what's really kind of cool here is that, if you have internal documents, I really like this with the little bubbles where it pops right up. Citations are so valid, so important because of potential hallucinations, that having really easy ways to double check the work really goes a long way for me. And I love that Google Notebook LM makes that really easy. So this is the kind of answers you can get. But yeah, let me go ahead and click on this. And Jyunmi, maybe you can tell me where, audio overview.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll probably take a couple minutes to generate. You have a lot of source files.
This is going to be your audio overview of all 35 source files?
I believe so. Like I had like 5 minutes to test out this new feature because I had heard about it this morning as well. But I just did it with one source file, and it took about 2 minutes to generate. But what was really interesting about the output was, as much as Illuminate sounds like the paper, the research paper it's analyzing, the output, the audio overview I got from putting up one of our older show transcripts made it sound in that kind of tone. So I don't know if that's just because they applied a different set, temperature set for Notebook LM as opposed to Illuminate, or is it making inferences from the transcript itself for tone and style? So it really sounded more like a conversational episode, like one of our episodes, talking back and forth. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I'm going to run in the background, and maybe we'll pivot. Andy, would it be easier? Because I'm on the wait list, by the way, for Learn About. So if you have an actual example, Andy, it might be better for you to share your screen.
Here, I'll do that right now.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up.
I do think Learn About is probably one of my coolest ones, but all I have is what I can show on the screen.
Okay. So in Learn About, it's like a conversation with, the AI. Here I just asked it, tell me how to use JSON schema for structured outputs. Before we go on, I would try to tell you what I was asking about, but it's, Learn About's going to tell you. JSON schema is a powerful tool for defining the structure and content of JSON data, and you use that schema to provide an example of how you want the output of an AI response to be structured. And so it's going to be limited to whatever the JSON schema is. So what you just type that up here, you see that little bubble up there? Tell me how to use JSON schema for structured outputs. So it says what it is. What with structured outputs, you get to do X, Y, and Z. Here's the steps for how to do it. It's called an interactive list. You can click on any one of these, has images included. And then once it's finished, here's an example of using JSON in that kind of thing. I can go deeper into it, or I can simplify. This is what I was referring to earlier. I like to be able to say, okay, well, this is a little complex for me. I'm going to click this button and get something a little easier to start with. But after it presents this stuff in the right-hand panel over here, it does a summary of all of the concepts and or terms that are associated with this. And you can click on any one of these to dig into it. So it's a very interactive, presentation. And I just encourage you to try it. I find it to be even more useful than the podcast version of Illuminate or the features of Notebook LM.
I could see this being a really good resource for students on there as well.
Yes.
I was, I don't know how quickly it runs or whatever, but for instance, right now my daughter's in geometry. And so the other day I was looking at her homework and she showed me what she's doing. She's working on geometry proofs, which that'll knock you back and oh, okay, hold on a second. You got to bring your brain back way back in the there's your do right? Jyunmi, you got to go backwards. But I was looking at the two columns and trying to remember or whatever. And by the way, we were using Photomath, the app, to help with it, and it was doing a really good job. We talked about Photomath as one of the apps from last week's shows. But I'd be curious, on the Learn About, if it also does a great job with that, if you're able to ask about a particular topic that a student might be going through. And just like we keep talking about, this is pretty obvious at this point, but when it comes to education, what we keep saying, what a lot of people keep saying is, hey, AI can be an amazing, assistant, an amazing tutor. What you don't want is AI just giving the answers, because it kind of goes back to the whole idea of the summary. You're not really deeply embedding or ingesting that knowledge or that concept where you could turn around and teach it back. You're just understanding that this is the answer. So it still runs into some problems, but I think as long as the AI like Learn About or these others are helping a student, helping an adult, helping a professional, whoever, understand the concept and go deeper where they want to, like you said, be more simple, give me a summary. It was giving you options, Andy, to go whatever route made the most sense for you as the learner. I think that's super, super cool. I can't wait to get off the wait list for that one. But that's a great example for people. I don't know, Andy, do you remember how long ago you signed up for that wait list?
A while ago. I would say it's about a month ago. And I got access maybe 10 days ago or so. It doesn't take long, but you go click on the wait list. Go get on the wait list because you're going to Learn About. It says at learning.google.com, which is an amazing URL, right? Google's out there with all the information in the world. If you want to learn anything, learning.google.com.
And just to say about Google Labs, bookmark it, check it regularly, right? We did a Google Labs. We did a thing on music FX and text FX. It's, I don't know, it's our fourth show or something. We did a really long time ago. Or maybe that was an after the show conversation, but they all run together for me. All right. But Google is notoriously horrible about letting people know what people have access to now, right? They're decent with their devs, but this kind of stuff are clearly small projects that don't have a big communication budget. So go periodically and look at these things. The other thing is I was not aware that when Google said, oh yeah, now we're available in other countries, we're doing things in other countries, which they did recently. Notebook LM is available in Canada now. So again, if you have gone to some of these and you're like, no, I don't have access because I don't have access, keep going back. If there's something you want to, if there's something you want to play with, keep going back because they're changing it and they're not telling anybody.
I think one of the best people to follow, and I think he does a really good job, is Logan Fitzpatrick, and you follow him on X, I believe, and I don't know if he's on Instagram or anywhere else, but his mission is to really showcase all the things that Google's doing, and he's doing the best he can in the community, but just like every other AI project outside of the community, it's very, very, very difficult. So this is something I'd probably present to a set of business leaders. They would have no clue this even exists. So this is something that, if you can follow him, but this obviously goes to the larger range of issue where there's just really cool things being produced, but no one knows about it outside the bubble that we're in.
Right. And Logan really focuses on things for devs, right? Like that's his main focus. And that at least that's what I see him posting about most often. But
He does, but if you follow him, you get all the
yeah, I do.
Hey, Brian, is that audio ready to go?
Yeah. Let me pull that back up. I'm not sure what this did. So let's all learn together.
Okay. Cross our fingers.
let's all learn together. Here we go. Add to the stage. That's not what I wanted. Let's do our normal one there we go. Okay, so as you can see over here on the upper right, it did a 6 minute and 10 second. It said, summary, these audio transcripts discuss the growing impact on AI on various fields. The conversations analyze the potential benefits, limitations. I don't know. Let's find out.
Ever spent like hours trying to make a presentation, really stand out? Well, AI might be able to help us out with that. We're going deep on AI in this one, and wow, podcast presentations, expert discussions, and let me tell you, the future is now.
It really is amazing to see AI popping up everywhere we look, right? I mean, we're talking tools that could change how we work, but also, like, what does it even mean to be creative these days? Big question.
For real. Like, have you heard of this thing, Gamma? This AI that makes entire slide decks just for like a prompt.
Oh.
Wild, right? Although, does that make us less creative if we're relying on it?
$1 million question right there. And it's part of this bigger trend, AI taking over the boring stuff so we can, supposedly focus on the more creative stuff. AI making images, music, even like summarizing those long reports nobody wants to read. But is that really going to lead to new innovative things, or just like a million copies of the same stuff?
That makes me think of this one discussion we saw where this musician copyrighted every single melody you could mathematically create.
Whoa.
Yeah, we talked about
and then release them all, like free to use.
Wow. That's a statement right there.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Wow, that is better than I expected.
Yeah.
The vocal
Yeah.
inflection, the way he came in, he's like, you know what? That makes me think about it. Wasn't at the same monotone.
No.
That was impressive. That was better than Illuminate.
That's using, it is better. It's using the advanced voice mode kind of articulation that makes it easier to attend to. In fact, in the chat, there's someone I just saw scroll by there saying, I can't concentrate on the AI voices. I have to read along with it because it's just too monotonous. That was not monotonous. And what that was doing was synthesizing something out of many, many of our shows.
Yeah,
and it picked up, I saw Jyunmi was getting excited there when, one of the comments came up about, I forget what it was at this point, but
Another idea. That was like, oh, they pulled that right from our
exactly
site.
something that we said on the show. So that was excellent. That was excellent. So now I'm excited about Notebook LM because I can take a lot of information, put it in there, and create something that's very interesting to listen to, and then share that with someone. So if I've done some research, I can put it in Notebook LM, and then I presume it's shareable. Like, can you just check that, please? Is the audio overview? Can I click on that and share that audio somewhere?
Can I share? Can I download it? Can I add it to my Google Drive?
Download.
Because yeah, perfect. Because I'm like, all right, I think we've got another channel,
And you can speed it up.
We talk about.
And you can speed it up, which means you're talking my love language, Google. Thank you very much.
Let's see what 1.5 sounds like here.
There. Basically saying that with AI making so
That's too fast. Let's do a 1.2 and just see if it helps any.
much, the whole idea of something being original is like meaningless. Makes you wonder about how AI is going to change intellectual property, copyrights and all that.
Totally. It's like almost a distorted reflection of creativity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And speaking of distorted, got to talk about the hype around AI. Those demos that promise everything, but then, well,
It's like that old saying, if it seems too good to be true,
exactly.
it probably.
I don't know.
It's picking out themes. There doesn't seem to be any sort of hierarchical organization to the subject matter that it's addressing. It's picking things that it's almost like Opus clips, picking an interesting video clip. It's picking out some things from all of that data that might be interesting to the listener.
And that's something to pay attention to too, because we did it live in front of you. check, because often these sorts of things focus on the beginning parts and the end parts and are sort of scarce in the middle. So if you're going to do this for your own kind of content, just check.
So it'll be interesting if you, and I'm going to do it. I don't know if we'll have time today because we can talk about other stuff. I'll try to do it really quick. I uploaded just Monday's show. So now it has to focus. So let's generate that really quick. It's just Monday's show. By the way, Monday we were talking about Sinead Bovin's discussion around whether we should ask children what they want to be when they grow up. So I had to get my head around what we talked about on that show, and we talked about jobs and what that looks like and everything else. So that was Monday's show. So I'll let that run in the background so we can just talk about some of the other tools here. Because by the way, we really sort of scratched the surface here. Some of the other ones that I think are kind of cool, Beth, you were kind of mentioning it. Let me just find it. Is this one, which is the code transformation, where you can put in, now I don't know Python, so I can't really tell you if one is better than the other, but I can put my original Python on the left, and then using text at the bottom, I can ask it for help. This may feel or sound like Replit or Cursor. I can say improve code readability or clean up, run the transformation, and then this is what it gives me on the other side. Now, I will say I don't know exactly what to do with this. I don't know if it's saying I got rid of the red and I only kept the green. I'm not really sure because this is the transformed, or what I would do with this if I would copy this and that would be the transform code. But nonetheless, there's a code transformation in there. You can go and literally play with this right now. And that's not the only one. You can, if you go back, if I go back 2 screens, they actually had the data science agent on there as well. I just use this one. The data science one says an experiment to build an AI-generated Colab notebook that handles data cleaning, data exploration, plotting Q&A on data, and predictive modeling. So Beth, can you talk more to that? Because you definitely work more in Colab than I do.
So people may not know this. Google Colab is also a free thing. It's a Jupyter notebook, if that makes sense to anybody. But it runs code within it. What this is saying is that it will build something that you can open as a Jupyter notebook on Colab Google, and the code is already built for you, and now you can run it. And the thing that I find really exciting is that you can do it with you can clean data with it, right? Clean your house, right? That's Brian's. Brian should have a shirt about it. Data exploration, plotting, Q&A on data, right? So how many times have you been the recipient of data information that just looks like boxes with numbers, or perhaps even like a document that clearly should be boxes with content in it, but is not? That is what this data science agent is about. Free. If you have a really complex thing, you can go and change the hardware that's running it, and you can get access to Google's compute, which is T4. T4 is what is in this that you have access to. So if you have something that needs a little bit more oomph in order to accomplish it, it's really exciting. Like this is, I don't know, this is like uncool Claude before Claude was cool with artifacts, because this definitely looks like code, but it can do so many things. And this is Google saying, we're going to help you. We're going to help you build the notebook.
So maybe while we're waiting to see what that audio comes back, let me just do a quick run through some of the other tools, but I'll just clip through them really quick, and we can just, there's not a lot, not nearly as much to talk about on these as others, but let's just look at some of them really quick. This one's kind of cool if you want to get better at descriptive prompting. So this is, you can see, it's like a level 1, and what it wants me to do on the right-hand side here is to do my best to describe this image. So we might say it's an illustration. We might not even say pink. We might say it's a flamingo pink or a Miami pink. We might say that, these appear to be like palm tree leaves. And I could be wrong about that. And they're green, and it seems to be in a stamp pattern. And we would put that all in on the right-hand side, and then it would grade us and say, oh, you got about 61% of that right. Here are some things down here, our little brain, would tell us things that we could improve to be more descriptive about our prompting. So it's just literally getting better at prompting. So if that's something that you feel like, hey, I could get better at describing things and writing better prompts, hey, they created a little game for that, sort of gamify it for you. Another one is the text FX. This has been around for a while. You can see up in the upper left, there's all different things you can do. But for instance, in this case, I can write the word daily, and it's going to give me unfolded and give me other daily affirmation, daily allowance. If you're a writer, like a writer, if you're a writer for books, screenplays, whatever, I can imagine TextFX is amazing to help you get unstuck in some areas. Here's another one. I gave it a little starting point based off of our Mars story, since that was what was on my brain. And it gave me not really like a whole story, but it gave me a next line, maybe somewhere else I want to go in the story. I thought that was kind of cool. This one is Fuze. You give it 2 different topics and it tries to fuse them together. So I don't know why I thought of Hot Wheels, but I said generative AI and Hot Wheels. I haven't thought about Hot Wheels in a long time, and it did its best. It gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I wanted more, it gives me 2 more. Each one of these paragraphs is its own little connection between generative AI and Hot Wheels. Maybe I'm trying to make that connection at a cool slide deck, and I'm like, man, I don't know how to connect these 2 things. This little Fuze, it's kind of cool in here. Plus, there's like 7 more. All right, we'll go on here really quick.
And I really like that Google has packaged all of their FX line of modal type tools. So there's text FX, image FX, music FX, video. And eventually they'll give me access to video FX. But it goes on the wait list.
This one's been around forever. It's literally just like you can create 3D, or you can create alphabet. It's sort of cool, right? There's all sorts of cool areas where, I don't know if I necessarily want these backgrounds, but I could put any one of these into Canva and immediately delete the background off of them. And pretty much any tool these days will do that. So if I really wanted the Daily AI show with chocolate cake with berries, 3D rendering, aerial view, HD, alphabet, well, I got all 26 that I can pull from here. Very cool, very creative. Definitely will spice up your next slide deck or presentation. If you don't want people to fall asleep in your next presentation, perhaps you need to go create your own alphabet and make it fun. Think about, by the way, if you work with, let's say you're making a presentation to a client, and let's say their logo is a flamingo or something. Dude, you could totally do something with like flamingos to show that connection, just for something different, just to make the people you're doing the pitch to like lean in a little bit. All sorts of fun ways. We don't really have time to talk about this one, but this is the music one. It's not great, so I really don't want to lean on it too much. It's just not like, when you look at where Suno is and things like that, and the other one that I can't think of, it's not on the same par, but you can play with it. It's fun. There's another one that I don't even have open where you can draw in your drawings, turn into music. Just fun, innovative things. Probably not something that we're going to see like land on the next Google Pixel 9 or 10 or 11, right? But it's just, they're labs. They're just like, here's something our Google team created. Play around with it. Let's see what people get out of it. It may work its way into something else. And I think my last one here in my quick run through would be the image one.
And Music FX was available way before Suno and Udio.
Well over a year ago, I would say, because we talked about it a long time ago. And I think
one feature from all of the FX lines that is a through line is the feature of the chips. This is really good for iteration and inspiration. So you notice that you can click on one of the words and it'll give you a drop down of other ways to adjust it and change it. So if you're just looking for inspiration or you want to iterate on whatever you've created, that's a really quick way of iterating on whatever you've already created. And it's in nearly all of the FX line. So I thought that was a real helpful feature.
It's super cool. I agree with you. I basically turned it from origami to drawing, and now it's recreating, but it keeps everything the same, and it gave me some drop downs, and then there's some other ones. So now it's basically taking the same idea and turning it into it. I can even give it some crayons in the bottom left. I like that, actually. Instead of just it did it here too. That's very cool, actually. Usually you would just get the picture, but in this particular case, it's zoomed out as if you were the artist drawing it or using colored pencils. Actually, that's really cool. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Okay, do we want to do a quick reveal here? It looks like it is 8 minutes and 23 seconds. We're back on, if you're following along and listening to us, we're back on Notebook LM. I've let it process for just the show transcript coming out of Monday. And let's see, what's our speed here? We'll leave it at 1 and just give it a quick listen here.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. And let me tell you, are you in for a ride? We're going to be tackling the future of work, but like not just the surface stuff. We're going deep, people, philosophically deep.
That's right. We're really going to unpack how AI is not only reshaping what work looks like, but how it's changing us, our very identities even.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And it all starts with this episode of the Daily AI we're diving into today, where they really get into the weeds of it all. You know that age-old question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, absolutely. Ingrained in us from childhood.
What if I told you that in this crazy world of AI, that question might be, I don't know, kind of obsolete?
It's true. The old roadmap might not lead us to the right destination anymore.
Totally. It's like using a Stone Age map to navigate, I don't know, like Tokyo. The job market's changing faster than ever before.
It's mind-boggling. The pace of tech, it's just...
Okay, I kind of want to listen to the rest of it, but since we're short of time, I will be listening to the rest of it after that. Wow, Andy, you were talking about the advanced language model. That is, I don't know about you guys, the pausing, the nuances in there, I don't know, Tokyo. You're not getting that in 11 Labs, or at least you weren't.
The voicing is really remarkable here. They were rambling a bit. The content thread there, I think, they were taking way too long to get into the meat of it and going on a number of different tangents to my ear. I was looking for a little more cohesion around what they were saying with each other, but it was very interesting. I'll say that the sort of the inflection and the language and the repartee between the two voices is really excellent.
Wow, I'm impressed. What did you guys think?
And so, Andy, I agree with you, but because this is a notebook, you could actually do the summary somewhere else. Like you could give it the content, like none of the extra, just like this is the cut. Because if it's using our transcript, we do that at the beginning of the show. I find that really interesting. It's also totally weird to hear quotes that I think I've said coming out of somebody else's voice.
Yeah, it is. I love too, like none of us said Stone Age or Tokyo. Like that literally did not come from the transcript.
Yes,
None of us said that, but it was bringing it in as just sort of like filler. You know what might be a good thing to try here, and this is a great pivot as we wrap up for why you should sign up for the newsletter. Here's what I'm going to do. This week, I'm going to use the summaries from the newsletter, and I will also include the notebook, these audios in the newsletter. The reason for that is because what Beth just said, we use the transcript, but we don't just throw the transcript in the newsletter. We have, some AI custom GPTs as well as our own editing that goes to the human side of editing to put like a why it matters. Like, why is this important? Like we had a whole 40-minute conversation about Google Apps, but when you see this in the newsletter, it's like also, why is this important right now? Why should we care about this? So I think it'll be interesting to take those notes, Beth, turn them into, turn them into audios, and we will share them. I don't know if they'll be good or not. We will edit them. We'll just, we'll make sure that they're okay. And they don't seriously hallucinate or say anything bad. And then I'll add those as audio files. I believe I can in the newsletter. So
Great.
Individual audio files for each of the topics.
Yes.
Maybe a single audio file for the whole newsletter.
Try that too.
That might be something. I'd like to listen to the newsletter.
Great idea. How can you subscribe to our newsletter?
You can go to thedailyAIshow.com, Beth. Jeez, everybody knows that. That's not doesn't it? Tell me more. No, you can go to thedailyAIshow.com. You should definitely sign up for the newsletter as well as subscribe wherever you happen to be listening or watching us. Those subscribes, those likes, those thumbs up, those comments that all our amazing folks are doing, 40 plus comments today live during the show on YouTube. They mean a lot. I mean, you hear every other content creator say this, but it's a fact. We can see all the analytics on the back end side, and that little thumbs up that you give us or that subscribe really does make a difference. It means somebody else could possibly find us and decide that they want to be part and listen to the show too and join the conversation. So we appreciate it. It's an easy way that you guys can support us back. That doesn't really cost anything but an extra second. So Always appreciated. Justin says, yes, audio newsletter. Okay, we'll see what we can do, because you're going to have to go sign up for the newsletter to hear what we come up with, because that's the only place we're going to share it so that it's exclusive content. All right, we got to wrap this thing up. I got to do it quick. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Replit, AI agent. I know Karl's built some stuff. Andy's been in there. Beth's been in there. I think I'm probably the only one that has not been in there. So I will learn with everybody else tomorrow. But that's coming up tomorrow, and we're going to do our deep dive. We'll give you our honest review of it. Do we like it? Do we hate it? Do we love it? Do we want to throw it out the window? You'll find out tomorrow. So that's it, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one.
All of them.